Hi kiddos! I hope everyone had a great weekend. It was a beautiful one. And I hope you guys are all doing great as well too, nice and healthy. Today, I'm going to read one of our favorite books in school, Peter Rabbit. It's a classic and I hope you guys all enjoy it. Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. This is about a little bunny named Peter who gets into a lot of mischief. Let's see. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a big fir tree. "Now, my dear," said Miss Old Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the field and down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put into a pie by Miss McGregor. Now run along and don't get into mischief. I am going out." Then old Miss Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the woods to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. Oh my goodness. Silly Peter. Where is he going? Let's see. First, he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages, and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net, and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew him to great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter, but Peter wiggled out just in time. There's Mr. McGregor. That's his garden. Let's see. And rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath the flower pots. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently, Peter sneezed. Mr. McGregor was after him in no time, and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp with sitting in that can. After a time, he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity and not very fast, and looking all round. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. Oh my goodness. Look, there he is in the watering can, and here's Peter Rabbit. Let's see. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he came more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to the pond where Mr. McGregor filled his watering cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch, scritch. Peter shuddered underneath the bushes. But presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor, hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go, along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught a sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside his garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. Look, there's Peter talking to the little mouse. She couldn't help him though. And here's Peter with the big cat. He ran away. Let's see. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking, and she wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was a second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. I am so sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. There's Peter. He's almost gone. And look, there he is at home. And look, his brothers are having bread and milk and blackberry currants. And there's Peter asleep in bed. Oh my goodness. Peter had a very long and exciting day. The end. I hope you all liked my story today. Peter Rabbit sure is a silly little bunny, isn't he? I hope everyone has a great day today, and I'll see you all tomorrow.